Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. And I would like to introduce our speakers today. So Rafael Tamames from Fidesense. Please take a seat. Aitor from Mutua Madrileña. Isaac from Google. And Alberto Knapp from The Cocktail. Well, just a brief introduction. I think we have 5 people here with different backgrounds. Rafael, he's an engineer. Aitor, he's a telco engineer. Isaac is a telco engineer. And Alberto is coming from advertisement and sociology. No? So for me, the first question would be, what is customer experience for you?
Okay, I'll take that one. So first of all, thank you to South Summit for organizing that, and Jaime for moderating the talk. I think that I should not theorize too much about customer experience. I would say for me, customer experience is more on the how than on the what. Obviously, a customer experience is any customer contact. It's more important how this contact has to be. And for me, this contact has to be simple, which is extremely difficult for corporates as homogeneous, which is again super difficult to have homogeneous experiences. It has to be meaningful, meaning that everything customer is doing with the corporation has to have a meaning and has to be flawless. And this correlates with the escalation part of the customer experience. So if you want to build this kind of contact with the customers, you need to break up the logic that most corporations we have, like different channels, different products, different silos. So you need to build everything from scratch, I would say. Thinking more on the customer journeys, maybe. Thinking more on putting analytics on top of everything. Thinking more about how technology can simplify things. So I think this is the very first thing I would say about customers. We need to forget about all the experience we gave to our customers and start reloading new things from scratch.
Okay. Alberto, you are coming from a digital agency and service design firm. From the outside, working with corporations, what is a big challenge for you when you have to deal with customer experience?
Yeah, for us, and I mean, that's why we have a panel here and there is so much talk about customer experience. This is the first time in marketing where the customer is going far, far away ahead of the big brands. So now every single brand wants to be customer-centric because finally the customer has so many power thanks to technology. The customer empowerment has been so strong that companies need to change all the way they relate to those companies. So the first thing they realize is that they need to be customer-centric, which means breaking the silos, working in very different ways, including the customers, the product definition and product interactions and service design. And it's a huge challenge. But every single company is realizing that either they put the customer, they bring the customer to the table, or their services won't succeed. And then if you talk about making it scalable, you start talking about big data, analyzing every interaction, seeing which interactions have value, which are a commodity, which ones you can automate, which ones need to be really personal. So at the end, the companies that we see thriving are those that understand how to treat the customer experience in different levels, depending on the value each touch point has.
And Rafael, I mean, more from the marketing perspective, what?
Yeah. Well, for me, the customer experience is about people. It's simple. Inside the companies, the problem is the connect the departments. The problem now is create a department of customer experience or digital department, and this department without budget or important budget. The other departments with marketing, commercial, sales have important budget and real budget for connect with the consumers. And for me, the big problem is the connect all the departments.
And Isaac, from the software perspective, I mean, you have been in Microsoft, Vodafone, Google. What is the main challenge for you?
Well, I would would say that, can you hear me? Yeah. I think the scalable part is very interesting, no? And we have the opportunity to serve billions of customers in Google. And I think it is a big challenge to make a person feeling that you are talking to him or you are providing a specific service to him, while at the same time you are doing it for another billion people. No? So this scalability part is critical. I was sharing with Aitor before that I was yesterday watching TV. I don't know if you were watching El Hormiguero. And in El Hormiguero there was a famous presenter and they were talking about a concert that is happening on Friday. This is a prime time program in TV, and they were inviting people, all the people who were watching the program, to go to the web page and to register for the concert and so on. The page was completely broken because even if 500 people at the same time were trying to use the web page, it was killed. No? So I think it is this type of mistakes, not taking into consideration the amount of people that may be interacting with your brand and how to make it special. Is one of the big challenges, especially in the digital channels, no? When you are serving millions or potentially millions of customers.
How to scale it up and have a lot of people accessing at the same time and the system does not...
Well, I think the good news is, that, and you know very well, that now a startup has the same power, the same tools that a super enterprise, in the sense that you can rent the technology you need from whoever, from Google, from Amazon, from Microsoft, to make your project scale. No? And I think that is very important to have in your minds and to use it intensively. It is also a good way because you don't have to buy anything, you can rent, and as you rent, you pay only for what you use, you can risk a little bit more and experiment a little bit more and interact a little bit more. No? And I think those are key ingredients to make sure that the customer experience evolves into the direction that you want it to be.
And we're talking before, and you mentioned it, Aitor. I think the big challenge of customer experience is that companies work in silos, and it looks like there are different owners of the customer experience, but at the end, there should be a conductor that makes one single customer experience. No? How, for example, at Mutua, is that happening?
I think that every company needs a facilitator, like a guy who is envisioning how the customer experience should be, and try to push the whole organization to move this direction. But you really, if it would be just one guy changing the experience, would be much easier. You need the whole organization because there is under my point of view, in Mutua is me who is facilitating and having the vision, but I cannot do it alone. Even though I'm reliable, I am intelligent, etc. I need other people, which is the actual guys who are pursuing or conducting the interaction with the customer to change the experience. And it's because I think there is a change in the paradigm. Is now experience is part of the value proposition, which changes everything. Because as an insurance company, the value proposition was the several coverages you have into your premium, right? So, okay, if you have this kind of problem, I can solve it until 500,000 euros, for example. You can put numbers on these. This coverage has a total return or profitability of something. Now you put something which is more ethereal. So you put experience into the value proposition, and you need to convey this message to the whole organization, which is programmed to be profitable in a silo manner, right? So you really need to have top-down vision. You need to have one leader, but also you need all the parts of the organization to work very well together. Also the technological part, because if the way you interact with Mutua processes, for example, is part of the value proposition, if I say everything you can do it in your mobile phone, you need to be reliable on the technological part, right? It's now part of the value proposition. You go to Mutua because you want to work in the mobile phone. So everything needs to be flawless. 2 years ago, this was not part of the value proposition. You came because we were good, because we were cheap, because we were something. So I think it's the scalable part of the value proposition, of the customer experience, is a key part of this.
Okay. Rafael, Alberto, we're talking the other day on the phone about omni-channel and the challenge that, I mean, there are different business units that, for example, a client owns like digital channels, another owns physical channels, but how, again, to create a unique experience, no? from the outside, how you're dealing every day with a big client and try to convey him or her to move into a unique customer experience.
I think that now, hello, yeah. I think that now everyone understands any experience is omni-channel. So from the beginning, you have to design your experience taking into account every channel. So that's not being an issue. It's being an issue implementing it, because at the end you can change the app quite fast, but to change the physical spaces and the way you relate with people takes longer. And I wanted to add, going back to what Aidor said, for me at the cocktail, 5 years ago, I wouldn't think we are now working with Google Cloud for some clients to improve the customer experience. But that's the beauty of scaling, because at the end, some low-key touch points you have with your clients, maybe receiving emails with some kind of questions, if you put it through Google Cloud, through machine learning, artificial intelligence, it's amazing how you can improve massive touch points into much better experience. And I believe in the coming years, I don't know how you guys see it, but in the coming 3 years, we're going to be amazed how many companies improve in the way they relate to customers because of how many things they automate, no? That right now are just being treated like a normal touch point, email, phone call, whatever, no? The moment you put a little bit of intelligence, and now it's much easier to do, it's amazing how the way it improves, no?
Mm-hmm. It will be integrated. They will know everything that you do. And
and you will get some definition, some kind of new experience or a special experience in a touch point that usually wasn't taken into account.
Rafael?
Yeah, from Finason's work in omni-channel strategies, for this is no easy, it's very complicated. For all companies create different departments, different roles. My point of view is the owner of the touch points. In the companies, more owners of touch points, and this is very complicated for companies similar to me. And now it's create new roles for owner of all customer experience of the clients, and I think is the role for create a customer experience connect with the omni-channel strategies. That's my point of view.
And Aitor, how are you using artificial intelligence and big data to improve customer experience?
For us, I think that artificial intelligence, big data, analytics, whatever name you give to number crunching, is absolutely key for everything. As an insurance company, we've been doing number crunching for centuries, but not on helping the customer to feel better, but to save money for the company. So we just need to turn these and put these analytics into for help of customers, right? So we do it. We are, for example, we have like several big programs that we are developing now, but one of it is customer journey transformation, in which we really want to leverage big data and analytics to understand what every customer needs, because of course, for example, when we are underwriting for us is extremely important. You need to stop bad risk and let good risk get in, right? So sometimes we do in the underwriting, we treat all the customers identically, right? We think they are bad customers until they demonstrate they are good customers, right? Mm-hmm. With the analytics, we want to change this experience. We want to understand forefront, which are the good ones, which are the bad ones, and which are in the middle, and you particularize the different experiences. So this is one thing. On the other thing, we are also working very closely to Google on using all the artificial intelligence and Google Cloud to help us improve our internal processes, to put more intelligence in the operational side, fraud, operations, marketing, etc., trying to personalize more the experiences and trying to understand better the customers and to make them go only through the processes they need to go in a very particularized way.
And as external agencies, how are you using artificial intelligence in order to offer a better service to the clients?
He's the expert.
Now some comments. I would say that artificial intelligence and specifically machine learning and deep learning is changing everything completely. And you all know that the engine of machine learning is data. So I think talking about customer experience and talking about every other thing in your companies, I think it is critical that you measure every single thing, everything. Everything needs to be measured, everything needs to be stored. If you don't have your data, you will not be able to be more intelligent in the way that you treat your customers. So this is a very, very basic thing, but very, very relevant. No? You don't need to be engineers. Google is full of engineers, but we measure everything. And sometimes we measure things that we don't know that we will get some value afterwards, but reality is that data is providing us with some competitive advantages, you know? And that is critical. And you will be able to use machine learning in new interfaces, talking to your customers. So voice is going to be, it is already happening, but this is going to be an interface that you need to take seriously in all the applications and services that you will consider. You will need to take seriously multi-language. Now you can use machine learning to translate into 100 different languages, and you don't need to develop a product for each of the languages. You develop the product in Spanish or in English, and you will be able to offer 100 different languages, 100 different experiences in the people in their own language. And this is going to be very interesting too, to expand overseas and to grow. No? So I think it's amazing what's coming.
Rafael?
Yeah, well, this answer is very, very good. Google and Israel is the expert for this. Artificial intelligence is necessary for all companies now. It's necessary, is the future, and no more.
And I thought you were mentioning at the beginning, well, the topic today is how to scale it up, no? So what are the main challenges to scale customer experience through all the organization with an homogeneous service? No?
I think is the problem of scaling everything in a company, not just customer experience. It's about people, it's about processes, it's about technology. So you need to change completely your operational engine and the way you produce your services, right? You should be less. You should rely less in people. You should rely more on cloud technologies that can scale fast, products that are simple to operate and to maintain, etc. So from the very beginning in the design phase into the maintenance, you should be absolutely focused on make these things scalable, right? For example, we have an asset manager, which is Mutuactivos, which is a direct asset manager, so we don't have like 3,000 branches in Spain like VBA, we just direct. So we need to think about the product we serve and the services we provide in a scalable manner. Thinking that if we just have a super success, 500% growth, how are you going to sell these products? How are you going to be profitable? How are you going to maintain this product? So it's more about a design phase, and it's also trying not to do everything on your own, which was very Mutua mindset 5 years ago, and now we try to rely on the people who know how to do it. Like, you need to have an ecosystem of partners you believe in, you grow with.
Exactly.
Yeah, probably two messages, very basic ones, but I think you all need to think big. And by thinking big, I mean that you may be having an app or a service or an application now that serves thousands of people. You have to imagine yourself being successful in the future and thinking, what happens if I'm serving 10 million customers? And this exercise is good because it will ask you, it will provide you about what type of experiences those people are using. For example, imagine you have an application right now and 1% of the people using your application or your service needs to talk to you over the phone. Okay, do the exercise of what happens with 1 million. And you can start to identify areas that you really need to change if you want to scale. And you cannot afford to have a problem in the customer experience if you scale. Technology will not be a problem, but certainly some of the processes can be a problem. No? And one of the things that we use in Google here is what we call the Think 10x. Sometimes we try to improve a process, not 10%, but improving 10 times. And it is not easy to improve something 10 times, to reduce from 1% calls to the call center to 0.1% calls of the call center. But I think it is a good exercise to rethink what it is that you are trying to give to the customer, to think if technology, for example, machine learning or the new things happening, are able to do things in a different way of what we have been doing in the past. And you may be getting the surprise that you may not improve by 10, but if you improve by 2, that is already 100% improvement. So this 10x mentality is a good exercise to do in terms of creating some disruption to other companies or to your own company.
Alberto?
See, I was thinking when you were speaking, technology is not a problem anymore. It used to be, but thanks to Moore's law and evolution, technology is getting so easy to use so fast, but humans stay the same. So every project we face of trying to be customer-centric, the main problem is cultural transformation. You can change the company, you can use algorithms, you can put AI, but you have to change the employees' way of working, and that always takes much longer than we think. So at the end of each big project we try to do, we end up trying to address cultural transformation, because it's very difficult for many people. Think plus 10 times on everything. You can do it with Google Cloud, but you have employees that cannot even imagine where they are heading, no? So while you were speaking, it's funny, technology is not the problem anymore, employees are, no? It's pure cultural transformation.
And also the design of the organization, no? As we mentioned before. I mean,
well, I have to say, I invest quite heavily in startups. It doesn't matter if it's a 20 or 200 or 2,000 company, it's amazing how people tend to be conservative. So I see startups that need to pivot or need to embrace change, and it is as difficult as it is for a bank or for Mutua. It's amazing.
Rafael?
Yeah, this, in addition is the subject, is the people. All journeys connect to the change management, the way of working in the organization. In final sense, 2 years ago, I start to experiment to holacracia in Spanish. For the way of working is different for the connect the change management in the whole organization. I think it's the great subject of no technology. It's about people.
Okay.
With respect to the organization, which is a very good point, I think that many organizations can work, many of them, but this kind of customer transformation is painful because you need a common vision and you need talent, no? And sometimes you need to realize that the executives, it might be me, I'm not talking about anybody else, maybe me, we are not ready to embrace the change, and we need to let others to do it, because when you have different silos and people don't want to change mentality, the biggest stoppers are in the top 10 of the company. It's not in the full culture. At least what I know in Mutua is the top 10 executive who has to embrace change in order to make the transformation. So it's a cultural thing, but it's a lot of high-level executives.
The
mindset.
leadership, yeah.
Yeah, why should I change if things has gone well in the last 10 years?
Exactly. If you make a lot of money with the old way.
Okay. And regarding insurance, because it's quite a boring product, no? Not in the...
Not anymore.
You just pay it once in a year, or maybe 4 times in a year, and if nothing happens, you don't use it, no? How do you think you can enhance the customer experience to get in love with Mutua?
Well, basically, of course, they are boring. I mean, they are insurance products are boring. We have our strategy in the customer interaction is twofold.
Mm-hmm.
On the first thing, we want to excel in all the boring things like claims and assistance and all the things. We want to have kind of a wow effect in these things, if possible, because it's very boring to do it. So try to excel. And on the other way, we try to put a lot of toppings into the product, like services and all the loyalty program, everything, so that you think you are interacting with something different than an insurance company. You know, for us it's simple because we are a mutual company. So customers think, and it's true, we are part of a group. So it's easy for them to interact with the Mutua and feel they son de la Mutua. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
You feel proud.
They feel they belong
Yeah.
to the company. So we try to have services with high recurrency and high frequency of interaction, and try to excel in this. And with boring things, just try to have a wow effect into the market.
And in a software company, exactly?
Well, I think in the case of Google, when we make a decision to build a product, we think about two things. First, are we going to touch hundreds of millions of people? And if we are not, then it may be a very interesting business, but it is not something that Google will pay some attention into it. No? And the second thing, we try to be very relevant in the daily usage of the tools. No? And a good question we do is, will people use this product at least twice a day? Okay, and this is another question that we make ourselves.
So 10 times and twice a day.
Exactly, exactly. No? So those are the type of things. I mean, Google may be a little bit different, no? But you need to really think about that, no? On the type of scale you want to have, and on the frequency of reach or usage that you will have with your customers, and that changes completely the customer experience. No? I like it a lot what Aitor was saying at the beginning about what it is customer experience. I would add something that the customer experience needs to be very linked to your brand. It doesn't make any sense that you invest a lot of money in creating the brand if then the customer experience doesn't not correlate, it is not consistent, and you cannot feel that brand in the same way that you are feeling an advertising. You should feel that same brand when you are using the product or the service. No? So do not waste any money on branding if the product is not good enough in terms of telling the story to your customers. That's significant. And that's the most important thing you need to do. And later on, you can spend on advertising. Right? And we are an advertising company, but certainly it is all about the product, the service, the experience that you are building for your customers.
And just to finalize, so we have 4 minutes, and I would like that each of you spend like a minute about what do you think would be the next challenges in the next 5 years to scale up the customer experience with all the new technology coming in.
I start?
Yeah.
It's for me, it's mainly every surviving company will be customer-centric, so it's going to be a common thing. And those that use the power of technology, of artificial intelligence, are the ones that are going to thrive. We are starting to experience a new era in customer experience where you start automating tons of small touch points, and it's amazing how you can build up the brand from those points. And if your competitors start doing it, you will need to start doing it. Yeah.
Isaac? From my side, very, very quickly, I would say technology is a commodity. If you use the right technology, technology is not anymore a differentiator. Algorithms, in terms of machine learning and so on, are not a differentiation. Those are also a commodity. What it is not a commodity is data, your data. The data that you are going to use to make the right customer products experiences. And so that is why it is so important to have all the open data that you can find, all the data that can help you to make the right decisions, but also your own data, the data of the interactions with your customers. The combination of the three things, the compute, the machine learning, plus your data, that will create the magic of a scalable customer experience.
From my point of view, I mean, the future of customer experience is about homogeneous cross-channel experience, and it is fueled by artificial intelligence. And this has huge implications for corporations, huge implications. We need to develop new capabilities. We need to break up a lot of silos in the organization. We need to change a lot of people in front of or leading the companies. It's completely changing the paradigm. And if we don't do it, I think we are going to suffer a bit.
Rafael?
Well, innovation is technology always, the way of working of people with the machines, with the artificial intelligence, and the purpose of the companies in the future, with the purpose connect with the customer experience. It's more different companies about the customer experience connect with a good purpose for the society and for the people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And thanks all the speakers for being in the panel. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, it's not on. 1 second. Hello? Okay. Thank you very much to our panel. Brilliant discussion there. We have a few more minutes left. So do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody have any questions based on what we just talked about? Perfect. Excuse me. Oh, there you go. Everyone beat me.
Thank you. Hi. First, thank you. I had a question. Maybe it's a bit off topic, but in your opinion, what is the best way to incorporate customer experience to an existing company? Do you think it's better to have like a special team or have people in the different silos participating in a special team? Or what has worked for you, what hasn't worked that much?
Personal opinion, not Mutua's opinion, my personal opinion, is that you need to separate transform and run in a company. So you need to have a team full-time dedicated to transform that has to create cross-functional cross-functional teams also with the run guys, but you need to have a dedicated team just thinking of the future of the company. Otherwise, my experience and my opinion, not Mutua's opinion, is that you're going to fail.
In my experience, the main thing is that you need the leaders to be on board. If the CEO and the board don't support the project, you're going to die. Because there's going to be so much friction while you implement the project that you need the top level management to be seriously on board. We used to make a joke 10 years ago that thanks to the Apple iPhone, all the boards understood what user experience was, because they all use a phone and all of a sudden realize it's relevant. We need something similar now that they use Cabify or they do something to understand how relevant it is.
And you need to work in a collaborative way, through the organization.
Thank you.
Also, if I may add, diversity, very important. Aitor said that, use internal people, but also external people with a fresh view. Use people from your industry and from other industries. Use people that are engineers, but also people who are sociologists or linguistics or whatever. I mean, out of this diverse team, magic happens.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions before we change? One more? Okay. Fantastic.
One more thing.
Alberto, oh, there we go. That's perfect.
Hello. So, how do you plan to face the legal paradigm that we have today in order to collect all that data that you were talking about? Because right now we have a real problem in order to be able to connect all the dots with that data, because we are not able to collect that much personal data that we used to do. So how do you plan to face this issue to be able to offer that customer experience you were talking about?
In my opinion, managing data is a serious responsibility, but it is something that if you do well, customers will appreciate it. I mean, the thing is, if I collect some information from you, you will only accept that if I'm able to give you more because of the data that you are providing or sharing with me. I mean, that is the balance that we need to find, in the sense of if you are serving or using the same product to everybody, then data is not affected. From the regulation perspective, you need to be 100% respectful, and I think you need to be very transparent also with your customers in the sense of what data are you using and what is the type of value that you can provide because of the data that you are using. And even give them the opportunity to turn off that data. If they do not see any value, leave them the opportunity to say, okay, disconnect. No, if you go to Google and you say, no, I don't want Google to know where I am located, that is fine, we can turn it off. I will not be able to provide some services, but I do respect what you are saying. So some people will be more careful than others, and some people will value more making specific products for experiences.
I think that regulated markets, we have had a lot of regulated markets in the history, and we still have, and those markets are really profitable. So even though all data management is absolutely regulated and GDPR, etc., there's low-hanging fruit and a lot of profitability is still keeping the law. So it's going to be harder, it's not going to be easier, but there's a lot of ways you can do. You can use legally data of the customers, and a lot of use cases that you can do being compliant with the law. I don't think it's a big issue. Distribution laws are also very regulated, so there's a lot of regulation, not only for data, that limits what you can do, makes you more intelligent. You adapt to your environment, I would say.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, can we please give a round of applause to Jaime Moreno, Aitor Elcoso, Alberto Knapp, Isaac Hernandez, and Rafael Tamames. Thank you very much. Thank you.